Hello there and welcome back to Valdis Story. Last time we did a fair bit of exploration, picking up quite a few useful items, including an angelic key. This time we'll be picking up its demonic counterpart, and at that point we'll have access to mostly everywhere in the game. Everywhere except that which is locked behind the divine doors. After all, we're on the quest for the divine key. That's where the story currently is. So, we've switched over to the monk's staff because, as I said before, I do want to show it off a little bit more. It pales in comparison to the power of Reina's bare fists, especially when powered up with the talisman. The totem, rather. But it's still a good weapon in its own right and worth showing off. Not unlike the big-ass hammer, which, as cool as it is in concept, I'm not really a big fan of. It's not bad, and on a strength build it's pretty good, but on our build it's not that great, and I'm just not a huge fan of its moveset. Just checking in with Sezzy here to see if we can upgrade our monk's robes. Very close to being able to do so, in fact, just 2 large emeralds away. And hey, there was that one NPC here, that strange child, who offered emeralds in exchange for polished stones. Unfortunately, we don't have quite enough. We need 20 for the 2 emeralds we need. So we'll see about doing that a little bit later. Hey, maybe we'll pick up the polished stones we need in this next area. An area that you're absolutely going to want a poison elixir for. Poison was a pain enough in the garden, and it's even worse here, for a reason that you'll be seeing. So this is the Mana Crystal Mine. I believe this was mentioned by one of the NPCs we talked about, and they mentioned that it had a fair amount of seismic activity going on. Lots of cave-ins rather, which is why it was sealed off like that. I'm sure that won't be relevant to us though. So yeah, this is why poison is so nasty in this area. The floor of most of the rooms is just a giant pit of poison, and it will kill you incredibly quickly if you don't have poison immunity, so please bring a poison elixir. This area is so much more doable with it. And in case you're wondering, yes, I do believe this area was in the game and in this exact state prior to the patch where they added those elixirs, so previously having one of these wasn't even an option. Yeah, this game was really rough on release in a lot of ways. But it's a nice success story in that regard, in that the developers actually listened to feedback and improved the game. Not enough developers do that. Ooh, it's a demon door, behind which appears to be one of our crew members. We'll have to see about getting to him once we have the demon key. Now, this room right here is one of the more annoying rooms in this area. At least if you're trying to kill this fire mage. You don't have to. He has a chance of dropping some good high-end demon materials, but he's really not too important to kill. I'm just doing so as a matter of course. My honor is at stake. As someone who has put 100+ hours into this game, I should be able to beat him. But I do end up having a fair bit of trouble, mainly because the room really isn't suited to fighting him. He constantly teleports between tiny platforms where you can't really get footing, and a lot of the time when you end up skill canceling, you'll end up doing so over the air and thus plummeting towards the bottom. One of the few negative aspects of skill canceling. In most areas you don't have to watch out for it, but here you do. Bulwark is similarly useless as he ends up getting summoned everywhere except for in front of the fire mage. But eventually I follow him and manage to take him down. Let's have a bit of levity to brighten our day. This is Sir Pancakes. Fucking dumbass demon. Yes, in case you're wondering, this is another one of the Kickstarter OCs, and it's probably my favorite. It's just so goofy that it ends up being way more fitting than someone like V's or Shadowboxer. Plus, he's a corgi, and corgis are rad no matter what they're doing. Best dog breed. Full stop. And yeah, we have another one of these annoying fire mages to deal with. This is an enemy type that you're best getting good at fighting because they reappear constantly throughout the game. Not these fire variants specifically, but similar enemy types with similar attack patterns. Namely just teleporting all over the place and attacking you with ranged magic that can be surprisingly difficult to avoid. Like, if we didn't have this poison elixir, the entire ground floor would basically be verboten to us, and it would have made avoiding those fire spells so much more difficult. And yeah, there appears to be some active seismic activity going on here. I'm sure it'll be fine. How much more of this mine could possibly collapse, really? Hey, level up. We'll be sure to use that soon enough. We want to deal with these enemies first. So this big room here actually has two entrances, one from the bottom from the save point. Keep that one in mind specifically. And one at the top. Now, one of the interesting things about the way this room is designed that doesn't really come up to any significant degree here, but you'll notice that there are a ton of collapsing platforms. And now that they're gone, we really don't have a way of getting out of here except by the bottommost exit. Again, I want you to keep that in mind. And that's even with the double jump. Without the double jump, you have even less of an ability to actually make your way upward once you're in the lower region. And again, it's not particularly relevant now, but it will be in like 5 or 6 minutes, so keep that in the back of your brain. You'll notice that we still have an unspent skill point. Since we're about to reach level 15, I figured it would be best if we saved up a few skill points. That way we can get more of the capstones of the monk tree at once we achieve level 15. As you can see, this room is a lot easier if you come from the top section, and don't drop down to the bottom. And that's good because the boss is right here. It is a pretty easy boss run, unfortunately. This boss right here can be rather tricky if you don't have a very good setup, a very good build. So it's Azudor again. Time for a rematch with him. It's been a long time coming. He's impressed with our skills, but still has to take us down on the orders of his god, Rogato. The thing is, he's not the only one that we're going to be fighting here. Because we chose Mercy to spare Distan's life, he shows up here as well to ambush us. In this sense of creating what is easily my favorite boss fight in the game. Because the thing is, they're on opposite sides. They may both want to kill Reina, but they also want to kill each other. If they're close enough to one another, they will actively go after each other. And theoretically, if you really wanted to, you could probably just wait it out and let one kill the other. I don't know if one can finish the other off per se, or if you need to land the finishing blow. I've never bothered. But it is a theoretical possibility. Otherwise, their individual attack patterns are identical to how they were in our previous encounters with them. The one difference being that Azudor will summon poison elemental demons. With them both summoning their own sets of minions, this fight can actually get rather chaotic, and that's why I chose to bring Kante along. His ability to hit every enemy in the room and mute and confuse them for a little bit is really helpful here. So, you can go after either Azudor or Distan. The question is, which one do you kill first? After all, you want to take down one of them as quickly as possible, thereby reducing the overall amount of chaos on the screen at one time and making your job overall easier. The thing is though, the developers thought of that, and depending on which one you kill first, well, one of two scenarios can occur, and we'll be seeing what both of those scenarios are like. For now, we'll be going after Distan first. So, an interesting wrinkle here is that Azudor has the ability to absorb other souls, using the unstoppable demon skill, Soul Rage. And thus he becomes Soul Rage Azudor, a new boss who is infinitely more dangerous than either regular Azudor or Distan. So, he seems tame enough right now, but after you deal enough damage and you don't manage to keep him stun-locked, he'll teleport up to the top there, putting up an impregnable shield, and forcing you to fight several of his clones, each of which is just as aggressive and dangerous as he is. The only thing that makes them easier is they have overall less health, but not by much. Even using the totem, focus mode, and our God Hand buff, we're kind of getting owned here. Although admittedly a fairly large part of that is the fact that I rarely bother to fight Soul Rage Azudor, so I'm not super familiar with his moveset. Another difficult part of this fight, however, is the fact that he causes mute on pretty much every hit that he does, and avoiding getting hit can be quite tricky considering how aggressive he is, and all the projectiles he spawns as well, never mind his clones. And being muted in this game is really nasty since it not only prevents you from using spells, but also focus mode and assists. So, eventually after you manage to take down Soul Rage Azudor, their souls will go berserk, forming the Abomination. A boss that kind of doesn't need to exist, like, the real tough part of the fight is Stage 2, regardless of how Stage 2 ends up going. This one right here is just an extra chunk of health that you need to take down, and a bit more time wasted to take off your time score. Its pattern is incredibly simple, only having the 3 attacks that he's showing off here, which are easy enough to avoid. The only reason we didn't end up getting an S rank was because of Soul Rage Azudor, not him. And it's worth bringing up just how much of a nothing Abomination is because previously Abomination did not exist. He was actually patched in later on. Previously, this fight would have ended at the 2nd stage. So this is one of the few additions they've made, especially boss-wise, that was probably not for the best. An Abomination in particular can potentially be really annoying if you don't have a good character build. He can end up being a huge HP sponge like Magus was for us on this playthrough, which just ends up making him a real pain to take down. Fortunately, that wasn't an issue for us. Now, we got a decent enough score for the fight, and getting an S rank is by no means necessary. The bonus isn't all that great, it's just a slightly bigger HP bonus. But I do want to show off this other alternate outcome. Yeah, the thing I love about this outcome in particular is that it's not Distan absorbing Azudor's soul, like Azudor did to Distan when we took him down. Instead, it's Azudor's soul possessing Distan. I told you he was pathetic and not really a threat, and I absolutely meant it. And the game clearly agrees. Hell, it's even to the point where possessed Distan is way less of a threat than Soul Rage Azudor, mainly because he doesn't have that impregnable shield gimmick. If you can keep up the damage, you can take him down incredibly quickly. As we also do to Abomination here. And as I said, for S ranking we get a slightly larger HP bonus. That's fine though, because the true reward is the default that you get for doing this fight. For having spared Distan, the Twisted Spirit. Opposing souls trapped in eternal conflict. It is a unique soul used in crafting a rather unique item. Now, before we continue here, we're going to switch back to our regular unarmed moveset. As good as the totem is, it is a little bit less speed efficient since to do your heavy attacks, which you're going to be using a lot, you need to summon a totem first, and that does take time. And time is absolutely of the essence here because, as it turns out, that was a load-bearing key. Having taken it, the mine starts collapsing all around us. This not only gives us a rather strict time limit that we have to deal with when escaping from this place, but that previous room that we just swiftly sped through. Remember how I mentioned to keep that in the back of your mind? When this sequence begins and the mine starts collapsing, the exit/entrance that leads to the save room, it's collapsed. Remember how I specifically pointed out that once those collapsing platforms in that room crumble away, you can't actually get back to the top, even when you have the double jump? Basically what happens is, if you fail with the platforming there and end up breaking those crumbling platforms, you're stuck in that room until the timer runs out, and then you either just have to load from your previous save point or use the retry function. I've actually had that happen to me in previous playthroughs, and it was incredibly infuriating when it did. Now, for this escape sequence here, you really do need to do it as efficiently as possible, especially if you want to pick up both that treasure chest and your crew member who's locked behind those demon doors. Now, strictly speaking, in the current state of the game, you don't need to do this. You'll actually get a chance to return to this area later on. But in previous iterations of the game, you had to get those now. There was no returning to the mine. So that is yet another way that the developers have overall improved the game, just taking out some of the annoying bullshit. By the way, I strongly recommend still having Kante when you're doing that escape sequence. Being able to momentarily stun enemies, especially in that final room, is super helpful. As you saw there, I slightly mistimed it and I ended up getting stun-locked by them for a bit, but we made it through nonetheless. Unfortunately, it seems something has happened to Ishq in the meantime. It seems that their mana heater is busted, and we've seen how that ultimately results in the frozen areas we've gone through. We're probably gonna have to do something about that, aren't we? After all, they can't exactly move anywhere else. The other towns barely have enough supplies as is, and most of the other areas are taken over by Tom Hanks movies. You know, angels and demons. Unfortunately, we're a fighter, not a mechanic. And we don't know anyone with the skill set necessary to repair one of these, do we? Yeah, after all, you would need a top-notch engineer, as Schultz tells us, with his cold, dead eyes. An engineer. An engineer. Wait a minute, we just so happened to talk with one in the course of the story. I'll forgive you if you don't remember exactly who I'm referring to, but you'll see in just a second. They're only a short distance away. First, we're just gonna check in on the strange child. I was hoping to have picked up enough polished stones to pick up 2 of these emeralds, as I had hopefully mentioned earlier, but yeah, nope. We didn't get enough polished stones. I'll have to farm those up at some point. But yes, if you recall, we do know an engineer, Claudia. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the supplies necessary, but she does give us a dead but working mana heater core. Perhaps if we could charge it up with electricity, we might be able to solve the issue ourselves. Will we be able to find a source of strong electricity? Will we be able to save Ishq from its frozen fate? Find out next time on Valdis Story. Same YouTube time, same shitty YouTube channel.